royal being from another world frightened by the notion of uniting with a merciless earth dweller, until a close encounter changes everything. Princess Solera sat in her grand room, her heart racing with an unsettling mix of anticipation and dread. Beyond the grand walls of the majestic palace, a flurry of movement filled the air, as if the very atmosphere was alive with excitement. Beings scurried through the corridors, bearing exquisite fabric garments and platters of shimmering treasures. The grand structure was bustling with activity, readying itself for an extraordinary visitor, yet for Solera, this day loomed ominously ahead. Solera's father, King Velrun, had just revealed to her that she was destined to wed a human, a man known as Captain Eric, infamous throughout the cosmos as the Ruthless human. She had encountered chilling tales about beings from another world, particularly concerning this one. Rumors circulated that Captain Eric was a fierce fighter, a being forged in the fires of conflict, a soul devoid of compassion in the heat of war. The idea of uniting with a being so otherworldly sent chills down her spine. Why must I marry him? Solera had asked her father, her voice trembling. King Velrun looked at her with a serious expression. To save our kingdom, my daughter, he said. The humans are powerful, and we need peace with them. This marriage will unite our people and protect Laura from war. Solera tried to protest, but her father shook his head. This is the duty of a princess, he said firmly. You must think of our people. Solera felt trapped. She didn't want to marry a human, especially not one with a reputation as frightening as Captain Eric's. She had never even met a human before, but she imagined them to be tall, fierce, and harsh, with cold, unfeeling eyes. Her friends told her stories about humans who could crush metal with their bare hands, and who had no compassion for anyone. To think that she would soon be bound to one of them in marriage was a nightmare. As the hours passed, her anxiety grew. She could hear her servants preparing the palace, talking in hushed voices about the ruthless human who would soon arrive. Solera wondered if they were as scared as she was. She could see the fear in their eyes as they worked. They would glance at her sympathetically, as if understanding the weight on her shoulders, but no one dared say a word. Finally, Solera could take the tension no longer. She called for her closest servant, a young girl named Lyra, and whispered, "Tell me the truth, Lyra. What do you know of Captain Eric? Is he truly as ruthless as they say?" Lyra hesitated, her face pale. "Princess, I've only heard tales," she replied softly. "They say he's a fierce warrior, that he leads his men into battle without fear. He has won many wars, and his enemies tremble at the sound of his name." Solera's heart sank. She felt a shiver down her spine. This was exactly what she feared. How could she ever face such a man, let alone marry him? Would he be cruel to her? Would he see her as nothing more than a duty, a piece in a political game? She walked to the balcony, looking out over the palace grounds. The gardens were beautiful, filled with flowers of every color. She remembered playing there as a child, running freely among the flowers, feeling safe. But now that safe world seemed so far away. Her life was about to change forever, and she felt completely powerless to stop it. As she stared at the horizon, a dark shape appeared in the sky. A large, silver spaceship coming closer. Her heart skipped a beat. She knew this must be Captain Eric's ship. The humans had arrived. Solera's stomach twisted with fear. She wanted to hide, to run away, and escape this horrible fate. But she knew there was nowhere to go. The whole kingdom was depending on her to keep the peace. She was a princess, and this was her duty, even if it meant marrying a man she had never met, and who she feared with all her heart. She watched as the ship landed in the palace courtyard. Soldiers and officials gathered to greet their important guest. Solera stepped back from the balcony, not wanting to be seen. She could barely breathe as she imagined the ruthless man who was stepping out of that ship. What would he look like? Would his face be as cold and hard as the story suggested? In her mind, she pictured him as tall and intimidating, with dark eyes that held no kindness. She imagined him wearing heavy armor, his face scarred from battle, his expression stern and unforgiving. The thought of meeting him made her hands tremble. In that moment, Solara felt utterly alone. Her father was depending on her, her people were watching, and she had no choice but to accept her fate. She took a deep breath, trying to gather her courage, but inside, her fear only grew stronger. As the palace echoed with the sounds of Captain Eric's arrival, Solara made a silent promise to herself. No matter how scared she felt, she would face this ruthless human. She would do her duty, even if her heart was filled with fear. She hoped, somehow, that she would survive whatever awaited her with this mysterious, terrifying man. The human arrives. Princess Solara stood near the balcony, her hands clasped tightly together as she watched Captain Eric's spaceship land in the palace courtyard. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. The moment she had feared was here. The ruthless human had arrived. The royal guards lined up to greet him, standing tall in their polished armor. King Velrun was there as well, his face calm but serious, ready to welcome the man who would marry his daughter. Solara could see the nervous glances between her people, the way they whispered to each other as they waited for the human to step out of the ship. Everyone seemed tense, as if unsure of what this human might do. Solara's heart pounded as the spaceship door slowly opened, revealing the man she had feared for so long. She held her breath, expecting a huge, intimidating figure with a cold, cruel face. But as Captain Eric stepped out, Solara's eyes widened with surprise. Eric was tall, yes, and he carried himself with strength, but he looked ordinary. He wore simple clothing, not heavy armor, and his face was calm, not fierce. He didn't have any visible scars or the terrifying expression she had imagined. Instead, his face held a quiet, focused look as he observed his surroundings. His eyes were sharp but not unkind, and his movements were controlled, almost gentle. Solara couldn't believe it. Was this really the same ruthless human she had been so terrified of? She squinted, watching his every move, searching for some sign of the monster she had heard about. But there was nothing harsh in his manner. He simply nodded to her father and exchanged a few respectful words. He looked more like a soldier than a warrior without mercy. Curiosity mixed with her fear. She felt her heart beating faster, not from terror, but from an odd sense of wonder. Captain Eric didn't look or act like a ruthless man. He seemed more like someone who understood the weight of his duty, just as she did. But still, she couldn't let her guard down. She knew that appearances could be deceiving. Maybe this calm, polite behavior was just a mask. Maybe, beneath it, he was as ruthless as the story said. She shivered at the thought and took a small step back, hiding further behind the curtain. As Eric and Cain Velrun walked into the palace, Solara slipped out of the room and moved quietly down the halls, keeping a safe distance. She wanted to see more of this man, to understand him better before they finally met. She was determined to find out who he really was. From behind a pillar, she watched as Eric spoke to a servant who had accidentally spilled a tray of fruit on the floor. The servant trembled, his eyes wide with fear, but Eric didn't yell or show anger. Instead, he bent down, picked up a piece of fruit, and handed it back to the servant with a small smile. "No harm done," he said calmly, his voice low and even. Solara blinked in surprise. She had been sure he would react with anger, maybe even punish the servant for such a small mistake. But instead, he had shown kindness, a simple, quiet kindness that was unexpected for someone with a ruthless reputation. She continued to follow him, feeling her fear slowly mix with curiosity. Eric moved through the palace with a calm confidence, never once showing aggression or impatience. He acknowledged each individual he encountered with a sense of reverence, extending his courtesy even to those of lesser status. To her astonishment, a few of the palace workers started to ease their tension in his presence, perceiving him as an individual they could engage with freely, unburdened by apprehension. Solara sensed her trepidation begin to dissipate, giving way to an unfamiliar sensation that eluded her grasp. She hesitated to acknowledge it, yet this being from another world was unlike anything she had imagined. Her thoughts surged with curiosity and wonder. Was the merciless title merely a tale, a fabrication designed to instill fear in others? Or was there something deeper within him that she had yet to uncover? As she trailed behind him, Eric abruptly pivoted, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. Her heart raced, and she swiftly concealed herself behind a massive vase, praying he hadn't noticed her presence. She held her breath, her cheeks glowing with a strange mix of excitement and unease. What was her reason for observing him from the shadows? What was she searching for among the stars? After a moment, she cautiously glanced around the vase, and to her relief, Eric had already shifted his attention back to his discussion with one of her father's advisors. He remained oblivious to her presence, or perhaps he acknowledged it but chose to conceal his awareness. Solara inhaled deeply, her thoughts a chaotic whirlwind of uncertainty. This being was an enigma, nothing like she had envisioned. She was torn between the instinct to fear him, and the desire to comprehend his enigmatic nature. For the first time, she felt a flicker of possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, this union wouldn't be as daunting as she had imagined. Yet, within the shadows of her mind, a faint whisper urged her to tread cautiously. In the grand scheme of things, her familiarity with him was almost non-existent. And no matter how benevolent he appeared, he remained the merciless being of his kind. The tales couldn't all be mistaken, could they? In the shadows of her royal duties, Princess Solara found herself captivated by thoughts of Captain Eric, a presence that lingered in her mind like a distant star in the night sky. He was nothing like the fearsome creature she had anticipated. She couldn't shake the memory of his smile directed at the servant who had stumbled, the way he exuded a sense of calm and respect in that moment. Her fascination only intensified. She sought to unravel the mysteries of this being who would soon become her partner for eternity. Thus Solara started to observe him from the darkness. She felt a touch of absurdity as she crept through her own palace, yet her resolve to uncover more about him before their inevitable encounter fueled her curiosity. The tales surrounding him lingered in her mind, yet her heart whispered that there was something deeper within this being than what the whispers suggested. She yearned to uncover the reality with her own eyes. One morning, she discovered herself concealed behind a pillar close to the training grounds. Eric stood amidst the palace guards, honing his skills with an intensity that echoed through the vast halls. She observed intently, searching for any glimpse of his merciless nature to surface in his combat style. Perhaps in the midst of battle, she would encounter the formidable, icy fighter that all spoke of with reverence. Eric grasped a wooden training sword, his eyes locked onto one of the guards, ready for an encounter that felt otherworldly. They commenced their duel, gliding to and fro across the vast expanse of the training arena. Solara awaited his arrival. To battle with every ounce of his power, displaying no compassion. Yet again, he astonished her. His movements glided effortlessly, each action deliberate and precise. He moved with incredible speed and precision, but he never sought to dominate the sentinel. Instead, he guided the guard through their battle, adjusting his stance and uplifting him with a calm and steady voice. Solara's eyes grew large with wonder as she absorbed his words. She had never witnessed a fighter behave in such an extraordinary manner. In place of that, instead of vanquishing his rival, he offered assistance for growth. He even chuckled softly when the sentinel finally succeeded in striking him. Eric offered the guard a solid handshake, a gesture of respect that transcended mere pride. As the training concluded, Solara swiftly concealed herself behind a wall, her heart racing with anticipation. She was utterly astonished. Eric showed no signs of being merciless whatsoever. He possessed great strength and skill, undeniably, yet he also radiated kindness and offered encouragement. She had anticipated a fierce combatant, yet he appeared to embody the essence of a sagacious mentor. The following day, Solera resolved to track him once more, eager to uncover the mysteries of this human's peculiar essence. She observed him strolling through the gardens, captivated by the vibrant blossoms thriving beneath the radiant light of the Roloran sun. For a fleeting instant, Eric paused, captivated by a diminutive creature that had touched down in close proximity. He smiled softly as the creature chirped, looking completely at peace in its otherworldly presence. Solera was in awe. Could this truly be the same merciless being she had dreaded? He appeared serene, with an air of contemplation. She sensed her trepidation gradually dissipating, supplanted by an unfamiliar sensation that eluded her comprehension. This individual appeared to be harmless. He appeared to possess a gentle nature. As she observed him, Eric abruptly turned his gaze toward her. Solera's heart raced within her, and she swiftly concealed herself behind a towering tree. She paused, heart racing, praying he remained oblivious to her presence. After a few moments, she cautiously glanced around the tree and spotted him, oblivious to her presence, moving forward as if the world around him held no significance. She exhaled deeply, a wave of relief washing over her, yet her cheeks flushed with a vivid hue of embarrassment. What was it about him that captured her fascination? She held the title of royalty, and yet, in this moment, she found herself moving stealthily, as if cloaked in shadows. Yet, she found herself unable to resist. The longer she observed him, the deeper her curiosity grew. Later that afternoon, Solera concealed herself close to the dining hall, where Eric was sharing a meal with several of the royal advisors. She observed from her concealed spot, attuned to the cadence of his voice. To her astonishment, he addressed her with a sense of reverence, inquiring about their traditions and way of life. He didn't behave like a ruler or someone who believed he was superior to them. Instead, he displayed a sincere curiosity about her kind, a reaction Solera had never anticipated. At one moment, a guide presented him with an extraordinary delicacy from the Roloran realm. Solera understood that the sustenance could be overwhelming for those unaccustomed to its intensity. She observed, anticipating his response would be negative, perhaps even mocking their meal. Yet, Eric savored the unfamiliar taste, offering a courteous smile as he praised the creator of the dish, expressing his gratitude for the intriguing new sensations. Solera felt her heart expand as she observed him from afar. He possessed not just strength and skill, but also a deep sense of respect and an open mind. Her apprehensions began to dissolve with each passing second as she watched him intently. This being was nothing like the creature she had envisioned. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Solera made her way back to her chamber, her thoughts swirling around Eric like stars in the night sky. She experienced an unusual warmth in her heart, an emotion she struggled to identify. Was it awe? Wonder? Or maybe something beyond our understanding? She was unaware. All she knew was that her fear had transformed into something otherworldly. That night, as she lay in bed, her mind was consumed by thoughts of the being who was destined to be her partner in a world beyond her own. As she uncovered the layers of his existence, her fear began to dissipate. Perhaps, she pondered, this union might not be as dreadful as she had initially envisioned. Perhaps, just perhaps, Eric was an entity she could rely on. As she surrendered to the embrace of slumber, a faint whisper urged her to remain vigilant. She had only glimpsed him from a distance. She remained unaware of his true identity when he was right in front of her. For now, she would continue to observe, trusting that her instincts were guiding her toward the unknown. A strange encounter the moment had arrived for Princess Solera to confront Captain Eric in person. Her heart raced as she steeled herself for the unknown. Before the vast reflective surface in her quarters, she adjusted her gown, attempting to steady her racing heart, yet her fingers trembled uncontrollably. This was the being she was destined to unite with, yet she understood so little of their essence. She had devoted countless hours observing him from afar, seeking to unravel the mysteries of his existence. Eric appeared composed and courteous, yet soon she would find herself face to face with him. Solera found herself at a loss, unsure of her next move, or the words to express her thoughts. She inhaled deeply, grounding herself in the weight of her royal responsibilities. She needed to summon her courage, regardless of how strange this encounter could turn out to be. As the massive doors to the grand hall swung open, Solara entered, her gaze instantly locking onto Eric's towering silhouette. He lingered at the heart of the chamber, his eyes fixed intently as he anticipated her arrival. He appeared as composed as ever, his stance both sturdy and at ease, but upon noticing her arrival, he adjusted himself slightly, offering her a courteous nod. Solara ventured cautiously, her heart racing as uncertainty gripped her with every step. Should she kneel? Address him with respectful language? Her thoughts whirled with uncertainty, but just as she was about to reach a conclusion, Eric shattered the stillness. "It is a privilege to finally stand before you, Princess Solara," he declared with a resonant and unwavering tone. His eyes radiated an unexpected warmth, catching her off guard. She had anticipated his stare to be fearsome, yet it turned out to be gentle. Solara nodded, her cheeks glowing with a hint of color. "Indeed, it is a privilege to encounter you as well, Captain Eric," she responded, her tone more delicate than she had meant it to be. She gazed downward, a peculiar blend of timidity and intrigue swirling within her. She had observed him from a distance, but now, as she stood so near, her heart raced with an intensity she had never known. A tense stillness established amidst them. Solara scoured her thoughts for a response, yet every word eluded her grasp, slipping away into the void. Eric appeared to sense her uncertainty, and gave her a subtle grin. "I sense that this circumstance is likely to be unusual for you," he remarked softly, his tone filled with empathy. "I find myself in your realm, bound by a promise of union, yet our familiarity is but a whisper in the vastness of the unknown." Solara gazed upward, taken aback by his unexpected candor. He wasn't fooling himself into believing that everything was simple or flawless. He grasped the depth of her concerns. His words wrapped around her like a warm light in the vast unknown, easing her unease, and she found a way to navigate through the unfamiliar. A subtle grin. "Indeed, it is quite extraordinary," she conceded quietly. "I have encountered numerous tales about your kind, and I found myself uncertain of what to anticipate, yet you are unlike any of the tales." Eric lifted an eyebrow, intrigued by the unfolding mystery. "Unusual?" he inquired, a trace of mirth lacing his tone. Solara nodded, her cheeks glowing with an otherworldly hue. "Indeed, the tales beckon you. Unforgiving. They claim that beings from Earth are intense and intimidating." She hesitated, glancing aside, a flush of discomfort crossing her features. "Yet you appear to lack any trace of cruelty." Eric let out a quiet laugh, and the unexpected sound caught her off guard. It was inviting and comforting, not the chuckle of a merciless conqueror. "It seems that we, as a species, can often be perceived in ways that don't quite capture our true essence," he responded. "We might appear intimidating, yet we hold respect and kindness in high regard. And I vow, my dear princess, I shall fulfill my promise. I will do everything in my power to ensure that this union is as pleasant for you as it can be." Solara's heart swelled with an otherworldly warmth at his words. She sensed her apprehensions fading, giving way to a flicker of trust. Eric exhibited a profound sense of respect, coupled with a deep understanding of the trials they encountered together. She sensed a flicker of possibility. An emotion she had long forgotten since the union was orchestrated. "Thank you, Captain Eric," she said, her voice gaining strength. "Your kindness is truly valued." They lingered, a touch uneasy, yet the atmosphere surrounding them seemed to shimmer with newfound ease. For a fleeting instant, they gazed at one another, each attempting to grasp the peculiar connection that had formed between them. Solara sensed the stillness envelop them, a soothing presence that hinted at an emerging harmony between them. But then, Solara's father, the formidable King Velrun, strode into the hall, shattering the stillness of the moment. He gazed with satisfaction, a nod of approval escaping his lips as he observed their unity. "Ah, I see you two have finally crossed paths," he remarked, his tone brimming with command. Excellent, truly excellent. Eric faced the sovereign, lowering his head in a gesture of deep reverence. Indeed, Your Highness, it is a privilege to encounter the illustrious Princess Solera. King Velrun nodded, a knowing smile spreading across his face. We are honored to welcome you aboard, Captain Eric. This alliance holds great significance for our kind. I have faith that you both will carry out your responsibilities. Solera felt a subtle weight in her chest. The call of obligation resurfaced, heavy with the burden of accountability. She understood that this union transcended her and Eric alone. It was a tale of harmony, togetherness, and the destiny of her kind. She gazed at Eric, yearning for a shared understanding between them. Eric locked eyes with her, offering a comforting nod that seemed to bridge the vast unknown between them. In some inexplicable way, she sensed that he grasped her essence, perhaps more profoundly than anyone else ever could. He was also tied to a sense of obligation, and united, they would confront the unknown trials that awaited them. The gathering concluded swiftly, and as Solera exited the chamber, she cast a final look back at Eric. He locked eyes with her and gave a subtle, reassuring smile. She smiled back, her heart fluttering with an unexpected blend of relief and hope, as if the universe had just whispered a secret meant only for her. This was merely the start, yet perhaps, just perhaps, she could place her faith in him. As time went on, Princess Solera felt an increasing sense of ease in the presence of Captain Eric. She remained curious, pondering the mysteries that lingered in her mind. Who was this being she was destined to unite with? Why did he appear so unlike the tales of merciless beings? One twilight, Solera resolved to pose her question to him. They found themselves in the grand gardens of the palace, where the sky was a canvas of vibrant sunset hues. The tranquil environment emboldened her to voice her thoughts. She inhaled deeply, collecting her thoughts, then faced Eric. Captain Eric, she started, her voice wavering with uncertainty. I have a question that has been on my mind for a while. Eric gazed at her with a serene, inquisitive expression. Certainly, Your Highness. Feel free to inquire about anything that piques your curiosity. Solera paused, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a deep sense of wonder, caught between the desire to respect his boundaries, and the overwhelming urge to uncover the mysteries that surrounded him. The tales speak of humanity's ferocity and ruthlessness, yet you stand apart from that narrative. In your essence I perceive a warmth that radiates kindness, a steadfastness that embodies patience, and a softness that whispers of gentleness. What makes you stand out so much? Eric absorbed the words, a subtle grin forming as he took in the extraordinary tale. He appeared to grasp her bewilderment, and after a brief pause, he gave a nod. It's a curious inquiry, he murmured gently. It seems the moment has arrived for me to unveil the secrets of my history. Solera's curiosity intensified, and she leaned in closer, captivated by the unfolding tale. I didn't always belong to this world, Eric began, his voice steady yet distant, as if recalling a life far removed from the one he knew. I was raised on a secluded farm, distant from any conflicts or skirmishes. My family existed in harmony, embracing a tranquil existence filled with simplicity. My progenitor imparted lessons of integrity and compassion, while my matriarch instilled in me the virtue of forbearance. Solera was taken aback. She had anticipated tales of conflict and strife, not the tranquil existence of rural life, Eric mused, his eyes wandering to the far-off skyline. Then, one fateful day, a band of warriors descended upon our village. They sought out new members, leaving us with little option. His voice faded into a whisper. I was abducted from my loved ones and conditioned to become a warrior. They sought to forge us into beings of immense strength, unyielding and prepared for battle. Solera sensed the anguish in his tone, and a wave of compassion washed over her. She had never envisioned the challenges that had shaped Eric's existence. Initially, I fought against it, Eric persisted. I never wished to be turned into a tool of destruction. I recalled the lessons imparted by my kin, the importance of compassion and reverence. Yet, within the ranks, displaying compassion was perceived as a flaw. Thus I concealed it. I adhered to directives, honed my skills, and transformed into the warrior they envisioned me as. But you didn't lose yourself, Celera whispered, her gaze brimming with a profound comprehension. You clung to your authentic essence. Eric gazed at her, a flicker of astonishment dancing in his eyes. Indeed, he responded. I attempted. As the days passed, I discovered how to harmonize power with empathy. I realized that true strength doesn't require cruelty. And when I was finally granted my freedom, I understood that my purpose was to assist others, not to bring them harm. Celera felt an immense reverence blossoming within her soul. Eric possessed not just courage but also profound wisdom. He had encountered challenges from beyond, emerging more resilient, clinging to his principles even as the universe sought to transform him. Eric's lips curled slightly, a glimmer of warmth in his gaze. Upon my selection to arrive in this realm, I anticipated the presence of confusion. I have listened to the tales your kind share regarding those from Earth, and I understand that you perceive us as a threat. But I wish to convey, Princess, that my intentions are not to dominate or inflict harm. I have arrived to create something extraordinary. Celera felt a strange warmth spread through her as she absorbed his words. Once he had been a source of dread for her, but now she perceived him with clarity. He was neither a creature of terror nor a danger. He was a being of aspirations and challenges, an entity who had endured hardships yet still embraced compassion. Thank you for sharing your tale, she said softly. It holds great significance for me. Eric nodded, his gaze filled with an otherworldly sincerity. Gratitude for your attention. I understand that this union wasn't what you envisioned, but I assure you, I will strive to cultivate a bond rooted in mutual respect and comprehension. They lingered in quiet contemplation for a brief moment, the sun descending gently in the atmosphere, illuminating the landscapes with a radiant shimmer. For the first time, Celera experienced a profound tranquility regarding their connection. She came to understand that Eric was an individual she could rely on, perhaps even develop feelings for. As they strolled back to the Grand Palace, Celera experienced an unusual sensation blossoming within her heart, a flicker of hope illuminating her path. She no longer viewed Eric as an outsider or a daunting fighter. Instead, she perceived him as a being with a tender essence and a resilient soul. In that instant, she sensed that everything was on the brink of transformation. But now, with Eric by her side, the unknown ahead didn't seem as daunting. Terrifying. Perhaps, she mused, they could create something extraordinary together, a connection that transcended mere obligation. But of connection and camaraderie. For the first time since the union was orchestrated, Celera felt she could confront the unknown with bravery. She looked at Eric, and he offered her a comforting grin. United, they would confront any obstacles that awaited them in the vast unknown. The momentous occasion, the day of union, had finally come. The grand structure was adorned with stunning blooms, vibrant banners, and shimmering lights, infusing each nook with vibrancy and comfort. Princess Celera observed the bustling activity from her chamber window, her heart racing with a blend of anticipation and trepidation. Today, she would unite with Captain Eric in a cosmic bond. Just a brief moment in the past, the idea should have engulfed her in terror. But now, after uncovering the layers of Eric's history, and witnessing his authentic self, she experienced a profound sense of serene. He had transformed from the menacing figure she once dreaded. He was a being she could rely on and admire. Her companions assisted her in getting ready, adorning her in a gown that sparkled like the cosmos. Its shimmering silver and deep blue hues harmonized perfectly with the customary garments of her kind. They adorned her with an intricate crown, and as Celera gazed into the reflective surface, she barely recognized the figure staring back at her. She emerged from the shadows, her presence both captivating and otherworldly. With eyes that shimmered like distant stars, she seemed to carry the weight of galaxies within her. The air around her crackled with an energy that was both familiar and strange, as if she were a messenger from realms beyond our understanding. Every step she took resonated with a rhythm that felt ancient, yet entirely new, as if she were dancing to the cosmic symphony of the universe itself. Appeared as a genuine royalty, poised to embark on an extraordinary journey ahead. As the moment drew near, her father, King Velrun, arrived to guide her to the grand chamber. They exuded a sense of pride and offered her a nod of approval. "You are embarking on an extraordinary mission today, my offspring," he declared. "This union will bridge our worlds and usher in harmony for our realm. I am proud of you." Solara beamed and acknowledged with a nod. Yet, deep within her soul, she understood that this was about something far greater than mere obligation. She yearned to create something genuine with Eric, not merely a strategic partnership. With a steadying inhale, she allowed her father to guide her toward the vast chamber where all eyes were fixed in anticipation. The chamber buzzed with an eclectic mix of attendees, a blend of earthly beings and otherworldly visitors. The presence of two distinct beings uniting for this occasion radiated a sense of optimism and togetherness. At the end of the aisle stood Captain Eric, clad in his ceremonial attire, a figure of authority and intrigue. His stance was firm, yet a softness lingered in his gaze as he awaited her arrival. As Solara glided through the corridor, an exhilarating rush surged within her, quickening her heartbeat. But this time, it wasn't from dread. She felt a thrilling, pulsating anticipation. As their eyes locked, she felt a connection that transcended the ordinary, a silent acknowledgement of something profound, layered with respect and perhaps a flicker of something deeper. It filled her with an unearthly strength to continue moving forward, step by step, into the unknown that awaited her. As she approached, Eric extended his hand toward her. And she accepted it, sensing the power and heat in his hold. The officiant initiated the gathering, uttering phrases of harmony and tranquility. Yet Solara found it difficult to concentrate. Her mind was a whirlwind of reflections on the odyssey that had led her to this moment, the trepidations she had faced, the compassion she had witnessed in Eric, and the aspirations she nurtured for what lay ahead. As the officiant spoke, Solara cast a furtive glance at Eric, her curiosity piqued by the otherworldly presence surrounding them. He appeared serene and intent, but there was a gentle warmth in his gaze that sent a thrill through her heart. He appeared to feel her watchful eyes and offered a subtle, comforting smile, as if to communicate, "We share this journey." At last, the time arrived for their promises to be exchanged. Eric was the first to break the silence, his voice unwavering and filled with genuine intent. "Princess Solara," he started, his voice resonating with an unspoken power. "I vow to honor you, to be by your side, and to collaborate with you in creating a future filled with harmony and confidence. I might not have anticipated what awaited me upon my arrival, but now I understand the privilege of being woven into the fabric of your existence." Solara experienced a strange warmth swell within her, her heart resonating with the essence of his words. As the moment approached, she inhaled deeply, centering her mind and preparing for the unknown ahead. "Captain Eric," she whispered, "I vow to believe in you, to gain wisdom from you, and to confront any trials that lie ahead side by side. In this vast universe, your presence is a beacon of light that I cherish deeply." As the final words echoed through the air, the officiant proclaimed their union, and the gathering burst into a chorus of cheers. Eric turned to Solara, his gaze shimmering with an otherworldly glow. For a fleeting instant, it seemed as if they existed in a realm apart, isolated from all else in the vast expanse of the room. He extended his arm toward her, and she accepted it, experiencing an unusual wave of happiness and comfort. As they traversed the aisle side by side, united in their vows, Solara sensed that this was merely the dawn of an extraordinary journey. The unknown stretched out before her, filled with mysteries yet to be uncovered, but with Eric beside her, she felt equipped to confront whatever lay ahead. As the festivities unfolded, Solara and Eric found themselves seated together, observing the joyous revelry of their kin. They exchanged hushed moments, engaging in conversation and laughter, their bond intensifying with every fleeting second. She sensed the tension dissipating, giving way to a profound connection, a bond of camaraderie, a collaboration, and maybe, in the fullness of time, something beyond that. As the twilight deepened, Solara gazed at Eric, overwhelmed by a profound appreciation that eluded her ability to articulate. She was uncertain about what lay ahead in the vast unknown, yet she felt a deep conviction that no matter the trials that awaited them, they would confront them side by side. For the first time, Solara experienced a profound sense of tranquility. She was embarking on a journey beyond the ordinary, intertwining her fate with a being from another realm. She was forging a connection with an entity that comprehended her essence, honored her existence, and nurtured her spirit. In that instant, she realized that, united, they had the power to forge something extraordinary, a fresh start. The dawn following the ceremony was serene and tranquil. The palace stood in eerie silence, as beams of sunlight filtered through the windows, casting an otherworldly glow across the chambers. Princess Solara stirred from her slumber next to Captain Eric, enveloped in an unfamiliar yet profound sense of tranquility. She had anticipated the ceremony to resonate as a duty, a task she must undertake for the benefit of her kind. Yet the truth unfolded in a way that was unexpected. It felt like the dawn of an extraordinary journey, something profound. She sensed the connection between her and Eric deepening with every fleeting second. Eric found himself already awake, perched on the edge of the bed, gazing out at the mesmerizing view of the gardens. His expression was serene, yet a spark in his gaze revealed a sense of elation, a subtle delight that she had never witnessed until now. As he caught sight of her alertness, he pivoted towards her, a grin spreading across his face. "Greetings, esteemed one," he murmured gently, his tone brimming with affection. Solara smiled back, a wave of tranquility washing over her, catching her off guard. "Greetings, Eric." They both lingered in stillness for a heartbeat, savoring the tranquility of the moment. Solara experienced an unusual sense of ease, as if the universe was aligning perfectly around her. She had dreaded this moment for ages, yet now, it seemed as though an entirely new saga in her existence was beginning, brimming with potential. After a moment of quiet contemplation, Eric finally spoke up, shattering the stillness that enveloped them. "There's an expansive journey before us, isn't there?" Solara inclined her head in agreement. "Indeed, a fresh start awaits." "In unity." Eric gazed at her, his eyes filled with a blend of gravity and warmth. "I understand that the journey ahead may not always be smooth. Obstacles will arise, and I understand the immense weight you've been carrying to ensure this succeeds. But I assure you, I will strive to ensure we create something remarkable together, something that will fill you with pride." Solara experienced a strange glow in her chest at his words. She had always been destined to bear the burden of her kind's aspirations, yet now, with Eric at her side, the solitude that once enveloped her began to fade. They would confront the trials ahead, united as equals, as companions in their journey. "I have faith in you," she stated plainly, her tone unwavering. Eric's grin widened, and for the first time, Solara caught a glimpse of something deeper in his gaze. It was a gaze filled with promise, a vision of the world they could forge side by side. The notion filled her with a thrilling surge of wonder and delight. After a brief pause, they rose and stepped out onto the balcony that gazed over the sprawling gardens below. The vibrant hues of the flora were at their peak, and the atmosphere was saturated with the delightful aroma of newly opened petals. It was a mesmerizing vision, one that filled Solara with a sense of wonder for the mysteries that awaited her. "This is where our journey commences," Eric declared, gazing out at the otherworldly gardens. "Our destiny, intertwined in the cosmos." Solara nodded, her gaze fixed on the vibrant blooms below, as if they held secrets from another world. Indeed, together in unison. As the hours unfolded, the duo engaged in deep conversations, sharing their aspirations and visions for what lay ahead. They contemplated ways to foster tranquility and togetherness among their kind, envisioning a realm where both humans and extraterrestrial beings could coexist in perfect harmony. The horizon was shrouded in mystery, yet united, they felt prepared to confront whatever challenges awaited them. That afternoon, they strolled through the expansive gardens of the palace, fingers intertwined, lost in a world beyond their own. Solara had never envisioned discovering tranquility in such a way, especially after enduring all the dread and doubt that had plagued her before. But now, as she strolled alongside Eric, she came to understand that the unknown ahead was not something to dread. It was a creation, a phenomenon to cherish. As they ventured forth, they stumbled upon a serene, secluded pond nestled in the heart of the garden. The surface lay undisturbed, mirroring the vast expanse of the heavens overhead. Eric halted and faced Solara. "We've taken our first steps into the unknown," he murmured gently. "Yet, this is merely the start of an extraordinary journey. There's an abundance further in front of us. I have no idea what awaits us, but I am certain that I want to confront it alongside you." Solara's heart raced with an otherworldly excitement. At his words, it seemed as though the universe was aligning perfectly. The dread that had once dominated her existence had vanished, giving way to a newfound sense of possibility. She gazed into the vast unknown. The unknown ahead, not as a weight but as an adventure. A voyage they would embark on side by side. "I share your feelings," she responded. "We have embarked on a journey, and now, we can move ahead into the unknown. United." Eric gazed at her, his eyes shimmering with an otherworldly trust and deep affection. In unity. As they stood there, the universe around them appeared to freeze, and for an instant, all that mattered was the vow they had exchanged under the stars. It was more than a mere vow of union. It was a vow of unity, of confronting the mysteries of existence together. They understood that the journey before them would not always be straightforward. There would be challenges, instances of uncertainty, and tough choices to make. But for the first time, Solara felt a surge of assurance that they could confront it head-on. They possessed